Well, as long as I can remember, ever since I was a little boy, I was taken to church by my parents. So I was introduced to the gospel at a very young age when I was in church, and also taken to church by my grandparents who used to stay out in Brunswick County. And at a very young age, my mom and dad separated. I think it's probably when I was about 8 years old, and that sort of shook me up, and I just really had some real insecurities there, and it just was kind of devastating to me.
I grew up in a Baptist home, a father that was a deacon in the church, and two uncles that were both pastors, Baptist pastors. So I knew about God from an early age. When I was in my early teens, at a revival, one night I decided to go up in front of the church and give my life to the Lord. And it felt right for a short time, but it was very short-lived because I think I was doing it for all the wrong reasons.
My salvation date is November 11th, 2008. And finally, after years of searching, I know who I am. I'm a child of God.
Been searching my whole life, trying to fill this void that's in my heart, this black hole, and I tried everything that the world told me would work. You know, the funny thing is I've been searching for what's been around me the whole time.
I was saved at the age of 4. I was led to the Lord by my mother at home. I could take you to the place right now where she led me to the Lord, and I remember that to this day. I grew up in a Christian school. We went to church all the time. As people say, every time the church doors were open, we were there. That was our daily life. I was used to that.
My mother and father both separated while I was still in her womb, while she was pregnant with me, and eventually she was unable to physically, financially, or mentally have the capability of raising any of her children. So I was placed in foster care up until I was 2 years old.
But there was a point in time in my life when I sort of entered the early teenage years. We didn't go to church as much. I wasn't taken to church as much, and kind of got around a lot of the people I used to hang out in school and just do whatever was popular at the time, whether it be just hanging out, going out with them, partying, and whatever the next thing was to latch on to, whatever the world presented to us, we would latch on to that and go with that.
As I grew older and went through high school and on into college, I grew farther and farther away from the Lord and grew closer to more worldly things. Through my early adult years, I was pretty involved in alcohol and drug use, always putting me first, always thinking about myself before anybody or anything else. How would my needs be met? And just very selfish and self-centered.
And I'd been searching for who I was for a very, very long time. And close to getting saved, God really put it in front of me. I had watched my family disappear. I had watched my husband die before me and be brought back to life, all because of the things that I had chose to do with my life that were not in God's plan. There had been drugs, there had been adultery, there had been all these things, and I thought there was absolutely no hope until I was led to Christ.
The time I was 30 years old, I was overdosed on drugs and in a treatment facility for the 3rd time, and you know, I needed something more, and that's when I made the decision to turn it all over to Christ, because He could do a lot better job running my life than I could.
When Michael and I got married, we really weren't all that interested in church. We just didn't want to have much to do with it. It's not that we didn't love God anymore or we didn't believe in Him anymore. We just were distracted and we weren't interested in things involving the church.
Needless to say, at 16 years old, I found myself in prison for the first time with a 10-year sentence and 10 years suspended sentence with 5 years probation and a bunch of restitution to pay for once I got out.
Later on in life, probably well, it's probably about in my late 20s, early 30s, where just had some real hard questions that needed to be answered. Where was I going to spend eternity?
I was at a point in my life, at a turning point, where I had to decide which direction I was going to go. At that time, my wife started coming to church here at Cape Fear Free Will Baptist, and I didn't want any part of it at first. But after a couple of times of coming and the pastor coming over and speaking with us and talking to us, he kind of made me start thinking about what I wanted to do with my life. And I watched the people in the church and how happy and joyous and free they seemed to be. So carefree and so nice and always so welcoming. It started to kind of wear on me, and I wanted what they had.